Thank you for listening to the Kyle and Tim podcast, where we have authentic conversations that help cultivate a better understanding of ourselves, our guests, and the world we live in. This podcast is about our guests, getting to know them, their backgrounds, experiences, thoughts, and ideas. We really appreciate you listening. Before we introduce our next guest, we'd like to introduce a few of our sponsors that help make this podcast possible.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Mountain Mule Transportation, located here in Bozeman, Montana. Mountain Mule is a private SUV and truck service, offering chauffeur services in all of Southwest Montana. Whether it's your next skiing, hunting, or fishing trip, early morning or late night trips to and from Bozeman Airport, as well as weddings and private parties. No matter the occasion, Mountain Mule will get you there safely and on time. To learn more, visit mountain-mule.com and book today.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Kyle and Tim podcast here in Bozeman, Montana. My name is Chase Conrad. Today, we chat a little bit about growing up in Pasadena, California, being Kyle's older brother, a little bit about me growing up and going to school throughout Northern and Southern California, and exploring myself, opportunities that I had growing up in college and currently in San Francisco, where I live.
Cool. Enjoy, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chase.
Thank you, guys.
We're rolling.
Are we good here?
Are we live?
Yeah, we're going. It's rolling. Chase,
Cool.
Chase Conrad, thanks
Welcome.
for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having
Pull that
me.
mic a little closer.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to be pretty close, like
Oh.
right here.
Okay.
And you know, you can kind of move it around as you move your chair.
Is this all right, Nina?
And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll have a sexier voice if you get closer, which is important.
Depending on what you're going for.
Since this is like your first official interview across the world.
Is it my first official interview?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I've done a few things, but
Welcome to the show.
thanks for having me to the Kyle and Tim podcast.
You're the oldest of the three Conrad boys. Let's
Oldest, smartest,
hear about it.
most handsome,
Best looking.
for sure, tallest for sure.
Yeah, and like the oldest one's always the
Also weighs the most.
By far. I mean, I'm a full-grown man.
The oldest one's always got the most. Like it's just full of problems because the parents tried so hard.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty standard.
that's
Yeah.
pretty true.
Like if you ask,
Wait, are you the oldest?
no,
Okay.
What a great way
No,
to
you're
start the
not right.
podcast.
I'm
But
just
it's
saying.
true. It's true. Mom and dad were basically like flying blind when I
Right.
came around, right? So
Shout out to my older sister Katie. Phew.
thank God for Katie, right?
Safety net for me. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
I think it's just a running joke though. But then there's always the middle child problem, and then there's the baby. So I think there's just something you can pick on no matter where you are in the.
For sure. Absolutely.
So what's it like being the oldest Conrad?
What's it like being the oldest Conrad?
Brother.
Brother? That's a loaded question. It's great. Yeah. What am I saying here? That's quite a question, Tim.
All right, just
That's a roundabout question.
yeah, because we all know each
Well,
other
let's-
well. But what was it like growing up with Kyle and Cole
Hey, Cole.
and your parents, who have now you've completed the circle because you've
Right.
all been on the podcast.
Everybody's been on the podcast. Wait, has Dad been on the podcast yet?
Yeah.
He has.
Remember?
Wait, I missed Dad.
No, at the lake.
We did it at the lake.
I wasn't there.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, you were there. You were
Coeur
Were
there.
you
d'Alene.
there?
Yeah.
Coeur d'Alene.
We
Yeah.
did it in Coeur d'Alene.
I don't remember that.
You were there. We were. Oh my god.
Yeah, we did-
Wait, outside on the deck.
Yeah.
My bad.
That's
bad.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
That's right.
Yeah. Growing up,
What was your childhood like, Chase?
it was great. We had a good childhood. I had a
Yeah.
good childhood.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the full circle moment. So if people have been listening to the podcast, they know more or less. Growing up in Pasadena, where we grew up, was pretty amazing.
How much older are you than Kyle and Cole?
I'm 3 years older than Cole, and
Yeah.
I'm like almost 5 years older than Kyle. I
So you guys are probably pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. But Cole and Kyle were very close in age. So they were like almost like twins. So I was always a little bit above and beyond whatever they were doing, like, just age wise.
Mhm.
And then
So
that's
I'd
just
already
been
grown out.
That's been the
That's
theme for
been
your
the theme
entire
for my
life.
entire life, right? Like if we're going to get real deep here, feeling a bit disconnected at times from them sometimes because they're very close,
Mhm.
always have been. So I was always like probably the annoying older one that was kind of like trying to like tag along, or try to fit in. But that's for a lot of different reasons too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But I think naturally, Cole and I were closer, just literally because we were closer in age.
Yeah.
So like you're, in a cycle of like, oh, we're into these kinds of things, and then you move on to the next kinds of things, and you were already surpassed that, and you're like, oh, I'm bored with those things, and I don't want to do them or whatever.
Yeah, well, and at times like they played sports together, right?
Yeah.
They were on the same teams at some time playing soccer. Or I don't know if you played baseball together.
We did, yeah.
They played soccer and baseball together at the same time. So again, and they had the same friend group as well.
Yeah.
And Kyle was also older for his year, so he was always playing a sport above his age of the kids that were in his school.
I was basically always better than everybody.
Yeah, that's true because you had extra experience. But yeah, so they had the same friend group, especially like getting into middle school and high school. And I was in college already, so I was already gone. Like, I flew the coop, for lack of a better term. But yeah, but generally our childhood was pretty fun, pretty unique growing up in LA, but living where we did.
What do you remember growing up in the Glen? Like what? Because you're 5 years older than me, and so like
I'm going to cut you off for a second. Yeah, but to answer that question, so my brother's 4 years, like roughly 4 years younger than me.
Okay,
and we've talked about certain things growing up or the way it was, and he'll tell his point of view, and it's drastically
interesting.
And it's so interesting to hear him say like, "Oh, you thought that? Oh, that's not what happened." And it's just so it's fun.
We totally remember things differently.
Yeah,
I mean, we even tell stories that we tell now from not even that long ago. Like maybe we were maybe just 20 years ago, not 30 or 40 years ago.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, how do you remember it? How do you remember growing up there?
Growing up in the Glen was probably an idyllic. I mean, it was an idyllic childhood, and I remember having a lot of fun, being pretty free. Could really go do and roam wherever we wanted to, which was really amazing. I had a couple friends that were my age directly for a little bit. The kind of people come and go, and so that was great. There were some older kids I remember that lived in the house that we rented out across the street. There were some older kids that were probably 2 or 3 years older than me for a while. They only lived there for a couple of years, but I remember that being really important for me because they were like older boys, and so people to like kind of chase after a little bit, try to keep up with.
Yeah.
And I got to go like climb the waterfalls that were closer, that were in our neighborhood, or try just do different kinds of activities. Because again, I was the oldest, and I was the oldest of like the whole group that was in the neighborhood most of the time. So that was cool. We had good neighbors, and we had great that are still live there now. And we had a lot of fun. We were like really creative, right? It's like different than kids are now that have like phones and iPads and TVs and all that kind of stuff. Like we had to get creative with our own outdoor activities, and mom and dad, they pushed us outside, whether we were biking or rollerblading or playing soccer in the street or making up our own games, which was super fun. Played a game called All the Balls. Remember playing the game All the Balls? We lived on a hill, so like every single ball that we had, we would put into the street. Cole or Kyle would be at the top of the street, and I would be at the bottom of the street, or maybe like a mix of other. And they would kick the balls down, and I would kick the balls up. And it was like a way to get out.
You can't let the balls get past you.
You can't get the balls get past you. And if you did, then you had to chase them down as they roll down the street. Anyways, it sounds so
That was a sick game.
It was a sick game.
I'll play right now.
It was a lot of fun.
How do you decide who's got the bottom of the hill?
I mean, I was bigger, and I could kick harder.
So he went on the bottom.
So I was at the bottom because then I could also chase the balls down the street. And then we had like a go-kart.
So there'd be like 20 balls.
Yeah,
we had a lot of balls.
All the like
and sometimes we would get
the kinds of balls you have.
We would get the neighbors' balls involved,
and the neighbors
20
play,
fucking balls, and we just kick the shit out of them.
Yeah, it was great.
That was sick.
You made me think when I was my cousins lived on the farm where we lived, and we played Cowboys and Indians when we were kids. But like games like that, Red Rover.
Yeah. We did all kinds of. Then the neighbors directly next door were more like theatrical, and so there was like we would do like we reenact like Beauty and the Beast or like Disney movies. So like all of us had like characters that we would play.
We'd do like plays.
Yeah, at their house. And then again, more creative. So like we'd do like face painting at their house where we wouldn't have done that at ours. And then the neighbors down below them had like an older girl that was kind of like, she was our babysitter for a while. And we would do like dance like routines. They were like into music. So whatever the
With Hillary?
with Hillary and Aaron.
Mm.
And
I forgot about Aaron.
Yeah. And Aaron Allen. So we had all kinds of different people that kind of obviously influenced some of the stuff that we did. But I mean, we were really very lucky to grow up where we did, because it was also really safe.
So you guys are in a safe, small neighborhood, but close to a very
big city,
diverse city.
Yeah, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Especially going back now, it's really nice to go back and be in the quiet space, but also be able to like access the city elements, whether it's like culture or food or whatnot, museums, all kinds of stuff like that.
I think Kyle and Cole, I've noticed both of them say that, like with playing soccer, you guys like such a diverse culture, just playing soccer out there.
Yeah, we grew up driving around all over Southern California and playing sports with all kinds of different people from all over, all different kinds of backgrounds. You know, it's where we kind of learned our first Spanish words, learning how to speak Spanish, even just a little bit on the field was really helpful. We got really good at driving. I mean, I was the first one to drive, obviously, because I was the oldest. As soon as I could drive, mom and dad like kicked me out the door, and I was driving myself to soccer practice and like being self-sufficient and learning those kinds of skills that, you know, driving in traffic for an hour when you're 16 is, you know, quite an experience.
Plus, you're driving a 1956 pickup truck.
Yeah. You've seen these trucks, right, Tim? Pictures of these old trucks?
I think you've seen the pictures,
Yeah. We'll have to show you another one. But yeah, I drove a 1956.
That was his first car.
2-ton, however heavy, 1956 Ford pickup truck. It was like meant to be a black cherry color, but it was more like a shit brown.
Nice. I know
Dad
that color.
painted it himself, so it did that in the driveway.
Shout out to Mark.
It was supposed to come out cool, and it didn't come out.
I mean, the car was cool, but it was like a tank. It was heavy, no power steering, no power brakes. It was gas guzzler, driving at like, 100 degrees to get to wherever we were going to go play soccer. I did that every day or every other day, driving all over Southern California. And we played soccer like far away, like practiced on Tuesdays and Thursdays or whatever. It was like 45 minutes or an hour each way. So that was...
Yeah, because you said that too, didn't your parents cart you all over the place too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then when I could drive, I started carting them all over the place. Which relieved the pressure for mom and dad, so they could do other stuff or have a break.
Do parents put their kids in Ubers a lot these days? Is that common or no?
I 100% think so. Yeah,
because everyone says now, "Oh, I'm a full-time free Uber driver for my kids." That's the reference that most parents use these days.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of that.
In the city, it's very common. In San Francisco, where I live, yeah.
There's not an age issue thing or something.
I don't think there's an age issue. I think that there are some safety levers built into the product for smaller kids. I don't know, maybe there's a certain age you can't ride by yourself. I think that's probably safe, but like as a teenager, you probably can do that.
Yeah.
We took a few taxis every once in a while.
Did we?
Yeah, like for summer school, and remember we went to swimming lessons, and we took a taxi a couple times back home.
I don't remember that. I mean, I guess maybe.
Yeah, we were like taking swimming lessons in Sierra Madre. And Mom would drop us off, and then we'd get off at we were done at like 11, and Mom was at work, so we'd take a taxi home.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we had to call collect on the payphone.
Call collect. Yeah.
It was sick. We put like a quarter in there.
Did you ever call collect?
Make a phone call?
Oh my God, I remember when I was a kid and we were at a movie store, like a Blockbuster. Yeah. And I went outside and I'm messing with the phone and I dialed 911. And the cop shows up. I was like, I thought I was going to prison for life, as you would when you're a kid.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that wasn't collect.
Yeah, but we had that.
Yeah, that was the only number you could call for free on a payphone.
Essentially, a calling card. We had you put a code in to be able to make the phone call to mom and dad if you didn't have a quarter, or to whoever you needed to call.
I don't even know how to use one of those anymore. Like I'd be like dumbfounded.
What, a calling card?
That or like calling 1-800-collect and then
there's instructions.
Whatever, you know what I mean.
They'll tell you how to do it over the phone. I wonder if that it still exists. 1-800.
So that sounds pretty similar to what Kyle and Cole said. Like pretty good sense of freedom. And
totally.
Just kind of
really.
We've talked about this a handful of times. Like whatever they call latchkey kid. Just kind of go and like.
Yeah, we weren't latchkey kids. We were just had
And
my parents were home.
What is the latchkey kid term?
Latchkey kid, my understanding is that like your parents aren't around, they're at work. And so like
you're basically at home.
Yeah, you're kind of running free and your parents are not available. They're not home. Our parents were home.
Sometimes if they weren't working, but yeah.
Yeah, but they would just like let us, even, that we would just be in the neighborhood, and we live in a neighborhood where there's like basically no cars. And if there were cars, they were driving slow because it was a single lane roads. And so like, and the neighborhood's it's in like a canyon. And so we kind of had like this range of area that we would just stay in. You couldn't really go anywhere. So,
no, and you didn't need to. But right. I also think that like, during the summer, for example, let's say you're not at school, whatever, we played soccer most days, like a soccer camp. So we would all go to camp from like 9 to 12. Either mom would come from work, pick us up, or somebody else would pick us up and take us home. And then we were basically free until 3 o'clock or whatever, until mom got home. So we would just take care of ourselves with it. And we had chores to do, do the dishes, like mow the lawn, whatever the things we needed to do, rake some leaves, or we just hung out and like made ourselves lunch and watched TV or played, or we had all kinds of different soda flavors. So like we just drank a lot of soda, I guess, during the afternoon. But yeah, and like we weren't like latchkey, but like mom and dad would come home, and dad, got up at like 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. to go drive the truck. Sometimes he was home at noon. He didn't drive. He didn't have he already had a full day, but it was only noon. So then he's around too. We did whatever before we went to the next soccer or baseball event, especially in the summer. We were always going somewhere.
And if he came home at noon, we had a full day of yard work
or something, some sort of like helping
trimming trees and cutting the oleanders.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, not all the time.
Yeah.
What do you remember about your folks when you were a kid? Like things that stick out, good, bad, and different.
I mean, I remember, having pretty high expectations of, there wasn't a lot of time where we didn't contribute in some way or another. Whether that was like, being responsible for whatever you needed to do for yourself, like homework or whatever. And yeah, we like hung, took naps and, whatever, we relaxed, but there was like Kyle said, there's always something to do, and mom and dad always expected us to get all of that done. Especially me. I just felt like as the older person, I had like set a high expectation, or I had a responsibility to like do whatever they asked of me. Which, still haunts me to this day in good ways and bad ways. No, I just have high expectations for myself, and so sometimes you don't meet those things.
Yeah.
Or you do, and you don't realize it. But yeah, I mean, mom and dad had high expectations, and we were expected to meet them. Growing up, I didn't really have the expectation to like have a job, for example. When I was in high school, I never worked really in high school. I think I had one little job in the winter for like Christmas money or something. But my job was like get good grades and play soccer. And help out around the house. I think Cole and Kyle worked a little bit in high school, like in the summers. They chose to do that, which was great, make money. And like they had their cars that they fixed up, so they wanted money for those kinds of things and just spending money. But I didn't have that. The expectations may have been different generally, but I didn't have those expectations.
You had a job in the summer, though. You worked at the pool.
That wasn't until college.
I thought you did that like the last couple of years of high school.
No, that wasn't high school. That was college. I came back in the summer after that first year in Chico.
Okay.
And I worked at the pool. And I worked at that restaurant in Old Town. I did both of those jobs for a little bit. When did I work at the pool?
I don't know. It's your life.
Yeah, I know. I don't remember.
This is when I'll start fucking with you, because when I talk to my brother, he starts saying stuff that I don't remember, and then
I guess you were 5 years older than me, and I started working at the pool when I was 15. So yeah, you were in college.
I was in college.
Yeah, that was my first job.
I think I only did that one summer.
Okay.
I think I only did that one summer.
Anyway,
and that was the summer we went to Florida. I don't know why I remember that, but
Yeah, that's right. We did go to Florida.
Yeah. So the expectations were high. So I did my damnedest to meet those.
Yeah, and I'm not the oldest, but I'm the oldest boy, and I'm sure my older sister could speak to this too. But there is some sort of unspoken expectation, and you just feel, you're older than your other siblings. You're like, oh, I should be further along because I'm older, and that. There's just all these kind of unspoken.
Yes, definitely. I mean, that's true for sure. Especially,
I also think that like a parent, the oldest kid probably takes on the anxiety of the parents, right? And so like, when we were talking to Ty's mom, right, and she's like homeschooling her kid, and she's like freaking out because her kid's like behind in reading, and she's like, my kid's behind by 6 months in reading, and she's like, she had to like step back and be like, do I think my child is not going to learn how to read? No. Does it matter over the 80 years of this person's life that they're 6 months behind in reading? Absolutely not. Right. And so I think parents, and she talked about this, was like parents put their timelines and their anxiety on their kids. And I think the oldest child bears most of that. And then it recedes or diminishes for the second and third child.
yeah, probably. I mean, I'm not a parent, so I can't speak to that. But I guess I can speak to when I was young, school came somewhat easily. I got good grades. I wasn't like a genius, and I also didn't have to like try super hard to get good grades or like do well in school. And Cole's kind of similar, and Kyle struggled a little bit when he was young. Quickly made up for it like later in school, but like I do, mom and dad worked hard, especially mom, to make sure that we had the best opportunities in education that we could within the means that we had. We went to public school and in Southern California and in Pasadena. Early days, like, elementary school, we bounced around a little bit. Our next door neighbor happened to be a teacher at the elementary school that we went to for most of our years. And that was really helpful. She was Cole and Kyle's first grade teacher. And so we had a good guidance early on. But as we developed and we realized that Pasadena schools weren't actually the best schools that we could go to, mom and dad worked their butt off to get us into the school district next door to us. And that was hard because we were kind of breaking the rules and kind of cheating the system a bit in order to make sure that we had the best opportunities. And that school district still is, and it was, and still is one of the best school districts in all of California. And that created more opportunities for us, like to be surrounded by kids that were, of a higher, upper middle class, but also had higher expectations. It was mostly, it still is a mostly Asian community. And, they've got high expectations for their children, like extremely high expectations. And so it was very competitive. And early on, I think it was kind of like a, little jarring, going to 7th grade and being in a new school district. And then Kyle and Cole came along to the other school district a little bit later. But I think that for my mom especially, and dad, but mom especially, it was the most important thing was to make sure that like we were going to be, if we're going to spend most of our time at school, right, which most kids are supposed to, it's going to be the best place. And mom worked her ass off to do that for us. I think taking that responsibility on is obviously what a parent is meant to do, but she made sure that we had all of the things that we needed, and whether it was a tutor or an after school or whatnot. It was really important, especially, for Kyle, I'll say. And we're not talking about Kyle, but it wasn't super easy for him. And mom and all of us really, made sure that Kyle had what he needed, whether it was time at school or time at home to like focus. And, and we always knew when that was happening. The nice thing about Kyle,
we don't need to talk about me.
Okay.
Unless you want to, but this podcast is about you.
Okay. Well, I also felt responsibility for taking care of Cole and Kyle, right?
Mhm.
Always. And Kyle and I had a very, going back to what you asked, if we talked a little bit about Cole and Kyle being really close in age. Kyle and I have always had a stronger relationship than Cole and I, for whatever reason. But being the oldest, I'm very much a caregiver. I'm always looking to take care of people, and I do that in every day, like with my partner or at work. I'm always looking to take care of people, and I enjoy it. And then I like mentoring and giving guidance. But Kyle and I always had a really good, strong relationship, so dropping him off and picking him up from his tutor or whatever was like really important to me, or soccer practice or whatever. Did that a lot. And I think those kinds of investments are really important as siblings.
Yeah, and back to your mom too. That like, I don't think there's anything more valuable you can give your kids is a good education. I mean, there's so much material stuff you could give them that if they don't have an education and they don't have a way to maintain it or pursue their life,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's much more important than that
No.
than love and education.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons why why I got pushed so hard to kind of like not have to work, go to school, get good grades, which I did, do the best you can, and then play soccer was part of the gig. And I was the first Conrad to go to university.
Mm-hmm.
My dad went to a junior college, and my uncles I don't think went to any school. We have two other uncles, and so I was the first Conrad to go to university. My grandfather on my mom's side went to university in Missouri, and my grandmother, my dad's mom, went to a small university in Wisconsin. Excuse me. But it was a big deal for me to go to school. And I remember the day that I drove away in my little Honda Accord that I'd gotten like 2 days before, going to Chico State. It was a big deal. I was leaving the house and going to school, and all of those investments that we had made throughout high school, paid off.
Yeah.
But I was always trying to like live up to whatever that expectation was, which is kind of undefined in a way. You go to school, figure out what you're going to do. It's not easy.
Yeah, like when you went to college, my mom and dad didn't know what that meant.
No,
They didn't know what it meant. They didn't know what it was supposed to look like because they'd never been. So that was an interesting experience for you, because by the time Cole and I got to college, things had changed. Like they realized like, they understood what it was like more.
Yeah. I drove 8 hours and, to go so Chico State's in Northern California. It's about an hour, 90 minutes north of Sacramento. And so I drove up there, and I was playing soccer. But I wasn't on the team officially. I had to go double days. So it was the middle of August. It's 100 degrees in Chico. And I did 2 weeks of double days, soccer tryouts, essentially made the team, but also was like trying to make friends and go to school and figure out how you're going to live in these dorms and party and do all the things you do when you go to university. But mom and dad especially didn't really know what all that meant, and neither did I.
It's probably like, and you can correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but it's like undefined expectations from them
100%.
and from yourself. Like there's they just know like, oh, you should go to school. And then you're like, oh, I think I should go to school. But nobody's really laid out what that looks like or what
that's
it is.
more so what I mean is that like, I think at default, my parents thought like, oh, you go to college, you choose a degree, you study it, 4 years later, you get out.
And you go get a job.
And you go get a job and you make more money than my mom and dad may have ever made. That's the idea, right? Like that's, and so like, but that's not reality, right? Like that's not how the college works, not how the world works. And so there was like this, like, there's 4 things. It's like go to school, study, 4 years later, get out and make pretty good money.
But in theory, that like there's some logic to that. Like if you've got a degree, you'll get a better job.
Totally. But there's like a system, right, that like we weren't actually really a part of. Like we were athletes. We weren't like academic. Well, we did school obviously, but we weren't like hyper focused on that. And so that was a weird thing because, like I said, my job was to go play soccer. My job was not to like go figure out what your career is going to be or your future is going to.
Well, the
look
reason
like.
you got to go there was because you were playing soccer. You wouldn't have gone to college there.
I literally went there because they had shown that there was like the only school that were like recruiting, quote unquote, recruiting me, but it was like half-ass recruiting. Like they were like, yeah, come, we like you, come play. It wasn't like, we want you to be on this team. You're going to, obviously everyone has to earn their spot again, but it was the only school that had made any interest. And so, I mean, I hate to say this, but like dad was like, that's where you're going. I don't feel like I had a choice. I didn't have a choice in like where to go to school or what to do. There was always like, you're going to go play soccer somewhere. And that was the opportunity that I had. And I regret that but I didn't know any better. That's nobody's fault. They didn't know any better either. But I think as Cole and Kyle came along, right, they had the choice. Like they didn't have to play soccer if they didn't want to. Like the expectations were always, like, I don't want to say higher, but different for me to go do the things you're supposed to do. Click, click, click. And I struggled. And just to like move on through this, the whole story is like I went there. I didn't actually play. I like red shirt, which is basically you're on the team, but you don't actually play soccer. You just practice.
You don't play in the games.
You don't play in the games. And the second year, my heart wasn't in it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't really like being there. I hadn't really made very many friends. I partied a lot. It was fun, but I just didn't feel like connected to that space. So I went back there my sophomore year and got cut from the soccer team. And it was like, okay, well, I didn't really have a choice then either. I was like, okay, well, you're coming home. I mean, the first thing that dad said is like, okay, when are you coming home? On the phone to me when I called him and said I got cut. And it was like, I guess I'm going home. And that was a Friday. And I was back home in Southern California on Sunday.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you think about like what are like the highest values and which order are they in, right? And I think for dad, it was like, well, I'm not going to pay for college if you're not playing.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was like soccer, college, like soccer was first, college was second. And then because if it was the other way around, it'd be like, you got cut. Well, you didn't go to college there.
Yeah. But there was never a question.
Yeah.
Nobody asked me, what do you want to do? What do you want? What do you, Chase, what do you want to do? And that's totally backwards about how like and maybe you don't know what you want to do. But I think where this goes a little bit bigger, like a little bit, like if you step out a little bit, is like, the exposure that we had growing up where we grew up in our small community, and then growing up in a fairly like competitive and conservative area as far as like it was competitive with soccer and sports and school. And then generally conservative in that way is like you didn't get a lot of exposure to other things. So I didn't know any better about what the options could be. I could have stayed in Chico and not played soccer and gone and had a whole different life. But I went back home, moved back in with mom and dad, which was not great when you're like 19 years old, and went and played soccer at the city college in Pasadena and like just followed on those footsteps. And then the next step was, oh, you're going to go play soccer at the next place you go to schools to. And so like, again, never really had the options.
It's funny. I can relate to that in a totally opposite sense. Though I never went to school, and I never thought I had the choice to once in my life. And I, as the oldest son, my father passed away, and everyone said, oh, you're going to run the farm, right?
Right.
And so you're like, well, of course I'm going to run the farm. You keep telling me I'm going to run the farm.
It was like in my early to mid 20s. I was like, people are like, oh, like you never wanted to go to school. I'm like, I don't ever once in my life remembering that being an option.
Right.
And it obviously was.
Yeah.
But you just, I don't know. It's weird. Like I relate to what you're saying because you don't feel like there's another option.
Don't feel what you're saying. And like, and that sucks. It's a shitty feeling, isn't it? To realize now how old are you? 35? 33.
Easy. 33.
Baby. Jesus Christ. You just not have an option. You don't know what all the options are. And even if you don't know, like there's nobody telling you like, hey, you don't have to run this farm. Yeah. And I think that.
And the thing is,
Tim, like if you had the opportunity to play baseball, like for real.
Yeah.
Right. And I say for real, meaning like you could dedicate yourself to playing baseball. just imagine what your baseball career would look like.
Yeah, and I don't think, and the funny thing is, nobody's telling you you can't, and you don't have those options. It's just that they're not telling you are, so your mind doesn't have the strength to think.
And it's all relative, right? It's like mom and dad didn't know any better, so we don't know any better, and we weren't surrounded by people that were like, "Hey, maybe you should guide your kid to do this."
Yeah,
like,
but what we were surrounded by was we were surrounded by other families that we grew up with or played soccer with that were going to college, getting scholarships, and so we were surrounded around that, and kind of in a group of people that was like, well, that's how you actually get to college and get to pay for it is you get a scholarship. And
yeah, I mean, that's one way to do it. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. That was it. That was the expectation. Like we were just good enough to like maybe go do those things. There were kids that were better than us for sure, but there were also kids with more resources, right? Like there were
less resources,
or less.
There were people with less resources, and the only way they could go to college was
100. That's
true. They had to get a scholarship, otherwise they didn't have an option to go to college.
Yeah.
So we played with a group of people that were both, right? There were people that
there were the rich kids, and there were the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah,
and we were
like in the middle.
Yeah.
So then you came back and you went to...
I went to Pasadena City College, and I was... let's see, where do I want to go with this? So basically our soccer coach for
growing up as
kids throughout our time, this guy we went to soccer camp for. We all played for him at different times. His name is Sharif. Sharif was the soccer director at Pasadena City College. So basically on my way home, I called Sharif and said, "Hey dude, I'm going to be coming back now. I'm coming back now." School started on Monday, which was basically like got cut on Friday, packed my shit on Saturday, drove home on Sunday, started school at Pasadena City College on Monday. Started with no classes, no idea what I was going to be doing. None of my friends knew I was coming home. This was I barely had a cell phone. So there was really no communication. There was no Facebook. There was no like any way to reach out really. I showed up at school and some of my friends, good friends, are like, "What are you doing here?" I hadn't even told them I was home. And then signed up for classes. I went to like the soccer.
So Sharif got you into school late.
Got me into school. I mean, basically what happened is like anybody can go to Pasadena State College, but like basically he sent me to that's the actual like athletic director of Pasadena State College, and because I had my transcripts printed out, and I show up with my transcripts, and I was like, I need classes like now. Gave him my transcripts, and this guy was like, "Oh, you're a college athlete. You got good grades." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Okay, we need to get you like a counselor now." So basically later in the day I had to catch a counselor, and this guy basically like gave me classes. I got into like all the classes I needed. But I took a lot of classes and I played soccer. I think I took 6 classes, both semesters. And I took summer school the following year, played soccer, made some really good friends, had a great time. I was living at home.
You guys went to like the national championship?
We went to the state semifinals, which was cool. I mean, it was pretty cool to be, on a really great soccer team. And it was very like familial. Like we were just like really close because we played soccer together every damn day. So that was cool. And living at home, Cole and Kyle were home, right? So we had like a different lifestyle, but it was kind of similar, in fact, being in high school. But these guys, played soccer and all that kind of stuff too. I got to go pee.
Okay. So do I.
I don't for once. we're getting into it now.
Sure.
Let's go. We don't need to wait for Kyle.
Okay. Yeah, we need this closer.
So where were we? College. What were you studying? What was your...
Oh God, school. I mean, I had no idea what I was studying. I was literally trying to like get out as quickly as I possibly could of the city college. I was essentially taking business classes because I really didn't know what I was going to get into. That's what I started at Chico State, was like business classes. I didn't really like them. They were not interesting to me at all. I barely got through them in some ways. I mean, I probably got decent grades, but I just like hated it. So when I got out of, fast forward, I went to City College for a year and plus a summer, and I went down to San Diego State. When I got to San Diego State, I basically cobbled together an assortment of classes that I needed in order to like get the quickest degree to get out in 2 more years, which became this like quote unquote American studies, which is just like this like mix of like communications and history and political science. It was just like a hodge. I couldn't even tell you what like the overview of the program was, but I didn't have to focus on business anymore, and I didn't no idea what I was going to do after. I had no interest, like just like no clue what I was going to do outside of whatever university I was at or whatever school I was going to. So yeah, I got after 4.5 years, I got an American Studies degree, which was essentially like a political science, like political communication degree.
Does any of it correlate at all with anything you do current day?
No, it's actually kind of it's a little reflective of what my career has been, which is like a hodgepodge of different jobs to create cool experiences and like follow whatever was interesting to me, which I guess tracks, which I've never thought about, is like this American Studies class. I had a little bit of everything, and my work is a little bit of everything for the last 18 years of like my work life. So I guess that tracks.
So at any point did you look back and like, oh, actually those classes I took are beneficial because of...
No. I mean, the degree is cool. I mean, you got a degree, right? Which is like that's like half the battle. It's like you did it, and you proved yourself that you could do it, which I think is huge. But when I graduated from school, I had no idea what I was going to do. Well, I should say, I graduated. My last semester was an internship in Washington, D.C. I did an internship at the Association of Public Television Stations. I was like a marketing communications intern, 6 months. I lived in D.C., had a great time, met a lot of people, and got to experience another city. Got to get away from my folks. I mean, I was living in San Diego before that, but it was nice to not have to go back home because I had no plan. I had no money, so I wasn't going to be able to like. I didn't know what the other options were, so I did DC. Mom and Dad they paid for that. Basically, it was like a party in DC for 6 months. I had always wanted to study abroad, so I didn't get to do that. So this was like my option to do that. And moved back home right after that. It was spring 2006. God, almost 20 years ago. And immediately got a job working at Hollister as a manager. You know Hollister? Like Abercrombie and Fitch? Yeah. Cole, at the time, our brother Cole's girlfriend was working there, and she was like, you should come work for us. She was like 16 and like pretty. And I was like, okay. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no clue. I just knew I needed a job. I just knew I needed some sort of job so I wasn't at home and get mom and dad off my ass. But mom and dad were like, what the fuck what are you doing? Going to work a retail job? And I didn't know what I was doing, but it was fun. I did that for like a year.
Total side note, do you know there's an American Eagle now opened at the Gallatin Mall here?
Sweet.
Yeah.
No idea.
I didn't even know they
Didn't know it still existed either.
Yeah. It's like the same level as Abercrombie and Fitch.
It's interesting because I think you like felt the pressure and had the pressure to get out of college in the fastest amount of time possible, because of the financial burden. And so I think that forced you to do something that you were like, I got to check this box, instead of like, oh, let me figure this out. I'm going to take a different set of classes and take another semester, or like that's, and so like you didn't have that option. And so like you forced yourself to check a box. Well, you shouldn't say you forced yourself, like it was forced upon you.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, I think
what I'm saying is like, if you had the
time.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say composure. And I say composure, like if mom and dad had the composure also, but if you had the composure to be like, okay, pause.
Totally.
What do I want to do? If it takes me another year and a half, who cares? Right. And so that could have been an option. It wasn't. And so you got an American Studies degree. I think there are a lot of people out there. Your story, I think, resonates with I would say probably more than 50% of people that go to college, is that they go to college, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know why they're getting a degree. They don't know why they're getting a degree in the degree they're getting. And there is this burden that sits over them of like, I have to go do something with my degree. And I think that expectation should go away across our society. I think it's unhealthy.
Yeah. Well, I think that like, it's very interesting, right? Because this is like also very American, US centric.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like get a degree, get a job, right? So like in the UK or other places, people take a gap year after going to high school, right? They go like travel and like meet people and explore, find themselves, and like whatever that means, like it could mean so many different things. Or they volunteer somewhere, or they go do the Peace Corps. There's like a million things.
Or they just get a job and work for a little bit.
Sure.
And go, okay, I'm change that job.
Sure.
And then get another job. And then they go, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't want to do these things. Let me see if I can go back to school and study X, because I'm interested in it.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, but again, like cobbling it together things, I think a lot of people could also say the same thing about like cobbling together a career based on nothing that they went to school for. And getting to wherever you got. And I think that's very common.
I was also thinking what you're saying though, hindsight's 2020. It's easy to look at our age at people that are college age now and be like, oh, you could do this and you could do that. But when you're there, you
have no idea.
You have no idea. But I mean, if you worked till you were 25 and then you selected your college classes,
that would be totally different.
You'd have so much information.
Yeah.
You'd be like, well, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I'd love to get better at that.
Especially I mean, at your age, your high school, college, like your brain's not even fully formed. You're like not even a full adult, like trying to make decisions of what you're doing. And you don't even have the capacity to actually understand like what these decisions are going to mean in the future. And if your parents are not experienced in this and like actually truly like guiding you and giving you advice, but also giving you space, like you're going to make decisions that are like just not going to align with whatever it is that you actually should be doing in the future based on like your skills and your knowledge and your understanding of life.
I think college can be super confusing in so many ways, because there's like a system, right? We're like, I have to follow this. Here are the rules. And then you're like, wait, but also college is like, there are no rules. And it's like this mashup of like, wait, I follow these things, but then I kind of get to create my own path at the same time. And I'm like, wait, I'm kind of confused here.
Yeah.
Like there are like made up rules of why you can take these classes but you can't take these classes, and these classes don't count towards your major, but these ones do. And so in reality, you're like, what the fuck? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You're telling me this random ass class I have to take and it counts towards my degree. This other class that's also super random, I can't take it.
Well, you could take it, but it doesn't count for anything.
Right. And so like, why then you're
count,
like, why
quote unquote count.
So
but it might be the most thing you're interested in the most.
And so like, it's a super confusing process.
There's a new show, plug for a new show on Netflix. It's called, on Prime. I should get paid for this. There's a show called Overcompensating on Prime. Highly recommend. It's about college. It's actually about coming out in college, and coming out of college in college. And it's just it's a whole show about a bunch of people that are overcompensating for their lack of experience in the world. And I think that it was just a very defining time for people that are like trying to like be somebody, but you're not sure who you're supposed to be or where you're supposed to go. And I think that the title of that show, Overcompensating, actually is like very reflective of that experience for me as well.
Sure.
Bear with me because I'm making up this analogy as I say it. So, but I was thinking picking your major in college at 18 would be kind of like picking who you're going to get married to, and then seeing if it's a good fit.
Totally. I mean,
like 10 years later, you're like, oh, well, like based off the information I had at 18 years, that's who I picked. And then it's like,
no,
it's only 150 grand.
Totally.
Like, oh, I'm 25 and shit. This is not like, obviously.
This is not the person I want to be with.
Obviously,
or the job.
Yeah. How would you know? Like, I could have, like, probably 9 times out of 10. Mm-hmm. Maybe you get lucky.
Yeah. And think about it. How many people get divorced when they get married early because they don't even know who they are?
Yeah. And you were doing all this at the same time where you were like figuring out your sexuality.
Yeah. I mean, that
so
was
like all of that was happening all at the same time.
Yeah. And that was the hardest part of all of it because I didn't actually know who I was, and I didn't have any other role models to help guide me in that way as well, which is why it took me so long to actually like come out and like be comfortable. Well, come out and try to start then being comfortable. Because then in many ways, I started like a whole new life again, figuring out like who I actually was. Because I had been overcompensating. I love this. I gotta tie this to back. Overcompensating to be somebody I wasn't, which is the hardest thing ever that I ever had to do, which was like basically like live a lie.
How old were you
like 10 years.
When you did come out? At least
27.
And that was it like, I mean, when did you consider that coming out? When you told your family?
Oh yeah. When I told my family, but it was more so like telling myself, basically being okay with it myself, and getting to the point where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. Like whatever we're doing now, Chase, whatever you're doing now, you can't continue because you're basically living
a double life,
a double life, or like no life. In many ways, because you were just like going through the motions. Yeah, you had friends and like, but you were not growing. I was not growing. I was basically like just stale for a lot.
Well, you weren't being authentic.
No. So yeah, that was hard. But yeah, I was 27. I mean, I had experiences earlier, but not being open with my family and my friends. And to be honest, very quickly after that, it was like, out, I'm out of here. Like flew the coop, essentially. Like stopped.
Started over.
Yeah, started over.
Yeah, like a year and a half later, we moved.
Yeah, maybe like 2 years. I moved when I was 30. So it was a few years. But like I moved out of, I mean, I wasn't living at home, I don't think, at that time. But yeah, I had my own place. And yeah, that was.
Were you driving a BMW then?
Fuck yeah.
That thing was sick. He had a cool BMW.
I had a 740IL BMW, like blacked out. It was fun.
Manual?
No. It was like
7-speed automatic.
Yeah.
It was like the first fucking 7-speed. It was like a super high end car. He bought it like probably 10 years old, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't 10 years old, but it was still a really cool car at that time.
Yeah. It was like,
you should buy one now. Then now that you can afford one.
Yeah. Again, here's another reason why I got that car. Because
my dad thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And he's like, you should buy this car. This car's sick.
Yeah. Dad's like, we have to go see this. And I was like, do I really need it?
But it's like really expensive. It was an expensive car, like a lot of maintenance. All the parts are expensive on it. So like it started to break down.
Yeah. It was horrible.
And so Chase has to deal with like fixing to pay this like expensive car.
And got rid of it.
Yeah. Anyway.
You want to do me solid?
You want more?
Yeah, decaf.
Yep.
Not to dwell on it unless you want to speak about it more, but like what was that whole experience like for you? Like coming out to your family or just living like because I mean, like, to be honest, it's like obviously takes a lot of courage and bravery to
yeah, I mean, it was Yeah, it was a long time coming. It was great. Everyone knew that I was gay. There wasn't. It was just that we hadn't talked about it, but it wasn't a secret.
Yeah.
Nobody was surprised. So it was good. It was just a huge weight off my shoulders, being able to then go explore whatever that means,
Yeah.
like whatever that meant at the time.
Or just be yourself.
Be myself, but also not even, I didn't think, to be honest, like I didn't know how to be myself. I didn't know who I was. And to be honest, still figuring that out, right? We all are, but like still figuring that out. I got to a place where I just realized that like I didn't need to be in Los Angeles anymore because I didn't have a community. And my friends were like getting married and having kids, and that was boring. I wasn't going to go live that life. And just needed to like move and like get out of like that environment. So I went to San Francisco a couple times in like a year, and because we didn't talk about this, but like I worked at a printing company for a number of years, and I had traveled around, and I had become friends with some folks that lived in San Francisco through that. My boss Andy, his daughter lived up there, so I would go visit her, and like she had a little studio apartment, and crash on the couch, and she had a brother, so we would go up there together. And I was like, oh yeah, I can, like, San Francisco's great. I had never been to San Francisco, actually. We never went as a family. I just never had traveled there, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world, if not the country for sure. And it just had a lot of opportunity. It was like future forward, right? Like all business that's always been there, and it's always been a safe haven for gay people. And so I knew it was going to be a good place for me. So yeah, I moved there in 2012, and
you've been there since?
I've been there ever since. I've been living in my same studio apartment. Lived there for 12 years, almost 13 years. And yeah, it's a great city. It's a great place to be. I've made amazing friends. I played soccer. I'm all of my best friends that I still have today. I met playing soccer in a gay club, which was awesome to be able to like go do what I'm really good at and do it with people where I could be myself.
Yeah.
And that wanted to be around me, and I wanted to be around them. And still am very close with a lot of people, and it is the foundation for all of my friendships in San Francisco. It's how I met my prime partner, Jeff. He didn't play soccer, but I met him through my friend Derek. And whenever I see folks that I met early on, whether they live in the city now or not, like those are my closest friendships, and I always make sure to stop, talk, have a chat, even though I might not be close with them. We have a special bond from that time.
Yeah.
Which is really amazing. Yeah.
And are you still working with Facebook?
Yeah, I'm still at Meta. Facebook, Meta.
It's Facebook, dude. It's always going to be Facebook.
The metaverse.
Yeah.
What do you do there?
It's changed. I've been there 7 years. It's changed over time. I currently work in the global workplace services team. We oversee all of our real estate portfolio and facilities operations. Specifically, I work on a design team, and I oversee an internal art program at Facebook or at Meta, where over the years we've commissioned over 1,000 artists to do site-specific art installations in our offices. We have about 110 offices around the world. We also have design elements to our creative program, where we would commission designers, and we had designers on our team to kind of help augment the art in the spaces and kind of help build culture within our offices and within the company. It's posters. We would design posters, so those are up on the walls. And then we have art studio spaces. 8 of them are currently operating around the world, where we host personal development and team building workshops for employees and teams to step away from their day-to-day, get away from the computers, learn a new skill, get to know each other better, build community, and kind of really enhance the creative culture within Meta. Obviously, we're designing products for everyone, for the entire world. I think there's like 2 billion users on these platforms, like WhatsApp specifically, is one of the biggest. I'm not up on all the products, but so creativity and making sure that, you know, we're building like inclusive products is obviously really important. And so our program helps facilitate thinking outside the box and getting away from the digital and more like working with the analog, and also surrounding yourself with people that you may not meet in your day to day, like on your team. So you might meet them around a table like this, right? Doing some sort of art activity, asking them questions, posing questions to them, and working with their hands. So you might draw, you might paint, you might do some clay, you might do some more like collaborative, like we would draw each other. So yeah, that's what I do, and it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of operations, it's a lot of documentation, and constantly changing. The company's been changing a lot over the last few years. So I'm still around. My team's gone. The people that I started with are all gone. I'm the only one left. So I'm kind of on an all new team, and yeah, that's what I do.
Is it remote or do you go in?
I go into the office 1 to 3 times a day, or 3 times a week. It's in Menlo Park, which is about 30 miles south of San Francisco. So commute's kind of a bitch at times. I like going to the office. We have beautiful spaces. We've got some really amazing architectural offices that I sit in, or that we sit in. So it's really a treat to go. We've got all the amenities we need, food and transportation down there if we need it. We've got all kinds of good stuff. So it's an amazing place to work for. We're very well taken care of. But yeah, I also work from home, which is nice too. There's an office in the city that I go to like once or twice a week. So I can walk down there. It's a 15-minute walk, which is great. Walking downtown and back.
That's a cool office too.
Yeah. The office has got amazing views. It's 43 stories downtown San Francisco of the Bay, Bay Bridge. And I can see 30 miles south. I can see 30 miles north. It's pretty cool. Like I said, San Francisco's pretty tight. Come visit. Tight. I just said tight.
You know how old he is?
Yeah.
It's pretty tight.
Are you 40?
I'll be 43 next month.
Oh, damn.
July.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got any big plans, or you want to stay there as far as you can see right now?
I mean, that's the question, really, is like sticking around there. I think the dream would be to have a place in the city and a place somewhere else, maybe Bozeman. But the city offers a lot for us, for me, for Jeff and I, and for things that we like to do, which is like have good food, be in a city that offers a lot of like diversity and culture, and like Jeff and I really like art and music, and we have really that's at our fingertips. There's all sorts of activations happening all over the city. It's beautiful to walk in. We've got amazing parks. It just is like a world-class city, but it's kind of like, it's so small. It's accessible. It's 7 miles by 7 miles. There's only 1 million people in the city proper. But the Bay Area is like 6 million people, I think, which is obviously like a ton, but we don't have to go explore all that. Like in LA, for example, like so spread out, you need a car, you got to get around, and like you have to go do something. Maybe you have to drive 20 or 30 minutes. We don't have to do that. We might just like get on a train or walk somewhere and be in a completely different neighborhood, which is amazing.
Did you take him to Shan yet or no?
The restaurant? Yeah. So who said that they went to that?
Well, you could have gone the other day, but you chose Blackbird.
Oh, right. Emily made a reservation at Shan for us. No, we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, Blackbird was good too.
Blackbird was good too.
Yeah, it's
good.
Mm-hmm. You guys have got good stuff in Bozeman. We love coming to Bozeman.
There's some good. There's some impressive food here.
The food's great, but just like Jeff and I love to come up here. We were so excited to come for the weekend. We want to come back, I think, before the end of the year. Love to drive around and explore. It definitely is not cheap here, which we all know. But I think, like I said, like the dream would be to have a place in San Francisco and a place somewhere else like this, in the sense that like it's accessible by, you know, a direct flight from San Francisco. It offers a lot as far as like diversity of experiences. So, and obviously having family here is the most important because we want to get closer to that. too.
Yeah, that's one of the big things here too is the flights. There's such good flights here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the direct flight on United is amazing. It's clutch.
It's like an hour and a half.
It's like 2 hours.
2 hours?
Yeah, a little less than 2 hours. So yeah, we can be here quick. Love it here. Very lucky, I think, to be able to come and visit you guys here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kelly, got any banger questions on there?
No, I wasn't planning on going there.
What you got, Kyle?
Yeah, what you got? Kyle usually has asked some
You ready?
life-changing questions.
I'm ready.
What are you extraordinarily good at
Oh, good question.
that like other people aren't?
Superpower.
Yeah. What? Sure.
I think superpower. So personally, I'll do personally and professionally, just because. Personally, I think I'm really good at reading people. I think I think a lot of gay, queer people of like that are a little bit different are hyper vigilant when they get into different spaces to make sure that they're like always safe. And I think because of that, I've always been somebody who can read people very well to understand this is a person that's going to be safe around. Can I be myself? Can I be authentic? Can I be something that, I don't have to like put on a front? And so I've always been very good at understanding people and reading them, seeing like looking into their eyes or understanding their body language. There's a lot there with like hypervigilance generally, like how I show up in spaces, whether it's a gay bar or or in any other space, to make sure that like I understand, like, and can kind of like control and manipulate to the best of my ability. So that's something reading people is really great. And I think professionally, I'll just say that like I'm really good at understanding, again, people, but making sure that like creatives, especially like artists and designers, I'm like a creative facilitator. So I'm making sure that they have everything they need, whether it's the tools or the space or the guidance, to kind of like allow them to like do their best work, which has always been, it's something that I've learned a lot about, like being around a lot of different kinds of creatives. But I really enjoy doing that. So facilitating creative experiences for the creatives, but also people as well. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Those two skills probably tie together.
They do.
Because you could tell if somebody's not going to facilitate if somebody's not comfortable, they're not going to be creative because they're not going to feel comfortable to just be themselves.
Yeah. No, I think I've been very lucky and fortunate to always work in the kind of field of like with designers, but also operations. So I've got like the left brain and the right brain, kind of skills and understanding to kind of help facilitate whatever work needs to get done behind the scenes in order to like produce something.
Do you think you can feel that? You said you can feel it with people. Can you feel it with places too? Like you come somewhere and you're like, oh, this isn't a welcoming town, state. Like
totally. Yeah. And I'm, very observant of the kinds of cues that, I get a vibe. And actually I get that. I think Dad is really good at that. My dad can really read people really well as well. So it's not something that that I came up with on my own. I think inherently, like Dad was always, he's a protector. And so he was always making sure that like we were safe. And yeah, I'm the same way. I can always read a space, read a room, read a city, read a person. And
what do you get when you come to Bozeman or Montana? Like what's the
vibes here?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is, this is a space that I've always felt really comfortable in. You walk around and, it's very welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's very welcoming. And you can notice those kinds of things, especially with the businesses that are in town. Even just having like the small thing, the small little reference, like having a pride flag in the window. And you see that in, every other business or whatever it is, like that's huge to make sure that like you can go into that space and feel, whether it doesn't matter whether it's a coffee shop or whatever, like that's really great. And those kinds of, those kinds of it's good to feel safe in a space.
Yeah. And
I haven't always felt safe.
And I grew up in a very, like very small town upstate that was like the opposite of forward thinking and you could see it out here when you get into small towns. And but it's like, it's a sign of immaturity. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You're just like, you're so stuck in like, but I think it's great. Like people, like a lot of people here will knock the city growing and the city becoming bigger. And it's like this, it's actually maturing. And it's like, it's a very immature view, but it just, I don't know. It's like, but it's good to hear that, like, that you feel that. Like, that's the same way I feel. That this place seems it seems like most people in Montana are like, hey, you do your thing. Like, I'll do my thing. Let's all just,
that's how it should be.
Yeah. And let's all just like,
that's how it should be, I think.
Yeah. You don't tell me what to do. I don't tell you what to do.
Yeah. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And that should be for that.
Leave me alone, but join if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, let me do my thing. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, you should be able to be whoever you want to be and like have that freedom. I think
Montana is like, and I think this term can get like misused, but if you look at it like literally, like libertarian is like, it's like almost like independent of like, just, hey, just leave me alone. You do your own thing. I'll do my own thing. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. I mean, but liberty means like freedom, right? I mean,
yeah.
So we should be at liberty to do what we wish, as long as it's not hurting somebody else. But when I tell people I'm going to Montana, people, like if I'm in San Francisco or people that maybe don't know it, they're like, what are you doing there? I'm like, oh, my brothers live there. Oh, is it cool? Is it safe? Is it la la la?
Because they don't know.
They don't know, right? Yeah. And it's like,
when you get the opposite, right? If you get pull somebody out of the middle of nowhere and you go, I'm going to San Francisco. They're like, fuck you going there for?
Yeah.
It's crazy there.
Yeah. It's not crazy there. I mean, it is crazy in the sense that like, it's a city.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Well, there are some crazy things. And just like in Montana, there are some things that would.
There's some crazy shit happening in Montana.
That's right. Yeah.
If we're going to say it's happening in San Francisco, it's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Well, when I lived in Seattle briefly, but I was never exposed to homelessness in that sense and, drugs in that sense.
Yeah.
So the stuff I've seen on the farm is, most people be like, "Whoa, I've had my whole arm inside a cow before."
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
Then like I've been pulling a calf out, like like covered in cow shit and placenta.
Yeah, and I've stepped over some like homeless person on the street who's passed out, from doing drugs.
Yeah, so my perception of crazy and somebody's from a city is we're both looking at
it's all perspective. It's all real. Yeah.
Like, have you ever had placenta all over your shoulder?
Nope, and I'm good. I don't need to have that. I don't want that experience. And some people don't want to like step over a homeless person at 7 a.m.
So I was just
I don't either, by the way. I don't like that.
I was just at my sister's last weekend, and they're on a giant ranch 5 hours north of here.
Okay.
And they were talking about AI. And AI in farm world is artificial insemination.
Oh God. Okay, cool.
And that's how I heard the term long before I ever heard the term.
Okay, artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to make the switch. I'm like, oh, they're talking about breeding cows right now.
Yeah, they're not.
But it's
they're not talking about tools to like make your lives easier.
Yeah, I heard that term long before it was a tech term, and
yeah,
it's just funny to switch. I'm like, oh yeah, they're talking about breeding cows.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good question.
I got another one.
We got.
Oh, okay.
What's one thing that you could change and you should change about your thinking?
Could and should change about my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
If I were going to interject on your question, I'd remove the word should.
No, I'm trying to make it.
I'd say could and would like to.
Okay, could and would like to.
I've been trying to remove. I just been trying to remove the word should from my vocabulary.
Yeah. If there's one thing that you could change you would like to change about your thinking, what would that be, Chase? So, Kyle, this is like just a curiosity question, like be fun. Have
These
fun
are the
with
kinds of questions that need to go to the podcastee
ahead of time
to prepare.
So you can lie.
No, so that you can prepare.
I know. I'm just messing around.
Honestly, I think it's the same thing that I would have said about 20 years ago, when I think what a lot of people can relate to is like getting out of your own way is something that like, it's not necessarily advice, but it's like these ideas that keep you from progressing. So I think like, for example, working at this big, massive company that I worked at for a long time, I'm having trouble figuring out what I'm going to do next, where it's what are the next steps professionally. And I have in my head that I can't leave. I shouldn't leave. I would like to leave, but I'm not able to because I get paid well, because there's security, because there's all of that. And I think we get stuck in our ways. And whether it's living in the same place for 13 years, which I have loved, I feel very comfortable in, or, thinking about moving or thinking about changing up my life generally, it's like letting go of those preconceived notions and an understanding of like what it might look like in the future. And I think that when does this answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
I think that, I'm going to be 43 this year, and I've lived, this chapter that I've lived in San Francisco has been amazing. And I've learned a lot, and I don't want it to fully end, but I do think that there's an opportunity to switch up for the next chapter. And I don't know what that looks like exactly yet. Starting to get some ideas. It's very scary to leave the security, the social, like the safety net that I have. And so that is what I'm trying to let go of, is like the understanding that like I'm going to be okay if I take some chances.
I think everyone can relate to that.
Yeah.
It's like you got to find a way to keep, keep one foot in the water of safety, but like slowly edge out instead of just, I don't know, if you just completely like quit your job and move all in the same week, it might be a little bit too much.
Yeah, definitely. I think the first thing is like quitting my job. I'm not going to be moving anytime soon. I've got rent. My rent control is too good in San Francisco.
Coming from someone who quit his job and moved across the country, it's intense.
Yeah. And I've done it. I mean, I've definitely taken risks. When you moved here, what, like you were 26, 27?
I moved here when I was, about 27, but I moved to Washington a couple years before that.
Yeah. Right. I think those are good times. I mean, there's a lot of people that have switched up their life during that's when I came out, and that's when I moved to San Francisco, more or less. And I traveled for a long time. I traveled for like 8 months. I quit my job when I was working at that printing company, traveled around all over the world during that time, which was really cool. But I think that like there's a quarter life crisis or a half life, midlife crisis is like real. People like quit their jobs and like go buy a Ferrari or whatever. Like I'm not going to be doing that. But I think that like as people start to get older and they're like, okay, the back half of their life, I think it should be like similar to we talked about like earlier, like a gap year, right? You graduate from school and like maybe you go take a year off and like figure out what you're going to do. I think there's this time between like maybe 40 and 50 where you've had a good career, maybe you have a family, maybe you don't. And you're like, okay, what makes sense for the next like 20 years? Where am I going to live? La, 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 la. Rather than just like grinding and getting through it and like just doing what you're supposed to do or expectations are. I think having like a summer break. I gotta pee.
Do you want kids?
No.
Nothing to do with them?
No kid. I love kids.
Oh.
I mean, our nephews are amazing.
You just don't want your own?
I don't want my own kids. No, I'm good. Like, I don't want that responsibility. That's like... I think that is for another breed of people.
It's
like,
funny because I want kids and I
don't mean that in a weird way. I just like, that just takes a certain kind of person to like want to be a father or a mother.
I've always wanted kids and do. And
cool.
I asked a woman who's sitting where you're sitting that, and she's like, nope, I don't. And she's married and she's like, nope, me and my husband, we don't. He's already had a vasectomy. Like we're not.
Yeah.
She was so convicted. I was like, man, she's making me have second thoughts now. She's like,
I mean, I think kids are great. I think it's just a huge commitment. Like, it's like just what we're talking about now. It's like, if that's what you want your life to be, because you are responsible for those kids for the next 20 years, whether you like it or not. 18 years for sure, but beyond that, they're going to be in your life forever. Right. And like, you are basically in some ways giving up yourself to other people, and not to say that you're not going to grow and all of those things are going to be very valuable to you, but like they're giving up something, a good portion of yourself to be responsible for those kids. And like, not to say that like I would never do that. Like, I could and should. No, don't have any interest in doing that. I'd rather invest my time and effort and money on focusing on myself and like my relationships and travel and all those kinds of things.
The more I hear that word should, I'm trying to
I don't
eliminate
like
it
that.
from
Yeah, I
my
don't like that word either.
vocabulary.
It's the same thing as can't. Can't.
I know.
and
Yeah, I
should.
just hate should.
Couldn't.
Like by whose expectations?
Totally. Yeah.
I got one question for you. What's one thing? What do you think's a pivotal or a main thing that happened in your life that made you who you are today?
Can I use the bathroom and think about that
Yeah,
for a second? I can't. Well, definitely not gonna be able to think if I have to pee.
What'd you ask me?
What's one moment what's one thing that happened in your life that made you who you are today? Also asked if you wanted kids too.
Yeah, I heard that one.
Because of my kids.
Right, I knew that.
And we're gonna bring some tissues in here.
Mm-hmm.
Guys be crying in here.
Right.
Trying to make me cry.
Well, not trying to make you cry.
Well, you're getting close. Somewhere, did you put the thing back on that fell off here? You must have. On the boom.
What'd you say?
You put the thing back on the boom.
I did, yeah.
I don't know if you got my text, but July 11th, that's the day John's taking us fishing. If you can go. It's a little after 10.
We're gonna have to go.
Yeah, we can wrap it up, but we got to hear this answer.
Yes. You want to ask it again?
Okay, what's one thing that happened in your life, a big moment that you remember that made you who you are today?
I just alluded to a big trip that I took, and I think that was a huge defining moment for me. So back in 2008, when the financial crisis happened and there was a recession, I was working at a printing company that I had been working for a couple of years. It was a small company down in Los Angeles, and they started laying people off. The business started suffering because of this financial crisis. They started laying people off, and I was young. I was the youngest person there. I was making not very much money in like the grand scheme of things, but I realized that like this place was not. I didn't want to be working at a printing company my whole life, and so I started daydreaming about traveling and where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, and then so this is about 2009. And so I decided, long story short, decided to quit and go on a big trip. And so I booked a trip, an 8-month trip, which was culminating in South Africa in 2010 for the World Cup. So in December 2009, I left. I went to London, where our good friends, the Buckles, were living at the time. And I stayed in London for them for Christmas and New Year's. I was there about a month. They were moving houses, so I basically just like helped them move and just spent time with them. Kate is like my sister. And then I flew to New Zealand, spent 3 months in New Zealand. I had some friends that were living there. I traveled around a lot with them, did some trips on my own, did some trips with them. We camped, just like beautiful. I went to Australia for a few weeks, and then I went to Southern Africa, did Namibia, Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and I spent 6 weeks in Cape Town for the World Cup. This was all defining because it was the first time that I made a decision, basically a big decision for myself, to go do this. I didn't tell anybody I was doing this. I didn't tell mom and dad. I didn't tell my boss, who was like a good mentor of mine and still is. I knew that I just needed to like go do something and get away. Because I had kind of been living this lie. I still wasn't out of the closet. And so I was like, just like not myself at all. And I knew I wanted to travel and go see the world.
Were you with those friends or no?
I was with friends like at different times.
The ones you were helping move though?
Yeah, no, they were just in London.
But were you out with them?
I was out with them. No.
Okay.
No, I wasn't out with maybe some people like at that time, some very close friends. But no, not them. That's who Kyle just saw in Mallorca, was
nice.
Our friends Jenny and Peter, Kate's parents. So yeah, I think that was like defining for me, because I came back and like, well, I made that decision, like was very confident in doing that trip and taking that time and, exploring the world, exploring myself, which was cool. And I came back and it was like it was about a year later that I moved to San Francisco. So it gave me confidence to kind of get out and kind of untether from what was always very comfortable. And I think I'm now getting to that point again where I'm very comfortable and I feel tethered for different reasons. Similar reasons, but different. It's like safety, there's this, maybe the theme of this podcast is safety, of just like feeling safe amongst myself, within my own body and with other people and the people around me, to feel confident to like go and explore opportunities in the future. And it was really defining for sure. And it was cool to see the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Want to wrap it up there?
That's it.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Chase.
Appreciate it.